Koto, and welcome to another week of Full Credit. I, of course, am Alice Soper, and where is Les Elder? Where are you, Les?
I can't even do a full semicircle, full circle.
So, for those of you that are listening to this rather than watching it, Les has just rolled into the camera. So, this is safe to say that my goofiness is definitely rubbing off on Les, and aren't we pleased for that?
Oh, we're just having fun with it, eh? But I've got to have fun because for me, my heart got broken a little bit yesterday when Matatu threw a doozy at all of us and caused heartbreak in Chief Country.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And this is why Les, as well, if you're not watching this on YouTube, is actually wearing a Warriors jersey today. No Manawa merch in sight.
Yeah, so I thought to myself, I could be heartbroken, gutted that for the first time ever in Super Rugby Aupiki history, my team, my Manawa, are not going to feature in an Aupiki final. So I, sat on that for a long time. But you can't mope. I've never been one to dwell. So I started to think, okay, what's the solution to this feeling that I'm feeling? I need a new inspiration. So here we go, up the wires, pulled out an old jersey.
Well, you're on a podcast with someone that has a lot of experience with disappointment, because obviously being born and raised in Wellington, it's part and parcel. It's a birthright of this region to be disappointed in your rugby teams. But look, 2 games, obviously the first one, Blues Matatu, it was a tight one. I told Les I got distracted by all the rugby that was happening because it was 12-all at halftime. It was actually neck and neck right up to the 59th minute. And that point, the Matatu, they just did what the same as they did to Paua the week before, managed to absorb that pressure, throw it straight back at their opposite. Final score there, 37-29. What did you make of it, Les?
Oh, I thought the opening 8 minutes of that game were really good. Like both teams showing some great fluidity. And I was like, oh, this is exciting. Like I think within the first 2 minutes, Portia Woodman-Whitcliffe scored. There she goes again, making a name and feature in our body. And it was a beautiful team try that resulted in some individual brilliance by her at the end there. But then I kind of found around the 10-minute mark, it just got really clunky and a lot of handling errors and to and fro, stop starts, which kind of paused that momentum that I thought we'd get from this game. Seeing that we watched them, 2 weeks ago, and it was a really tight first 40. But also the Blues had experienced a whole number of changes. So you could tell that their purpose going into the game on the weekend wasn't so much about going out there to just win. It was about, and I think Charmaine McMiniman mentioned it at halftime, it was about exposure and handling pressure. And they did that, right? They got tested right to the 80th minute. They were chasing the game. They had girls that don't usually starting and getting big minutes under their belt. So you could tell there was a different purpose to the game for the Blues. On the flip side, though, when we were down watching the Matatu Blues game last time, we caught up, I think I mentioned this, we caught up with a couple of the Matatu girls after that game. And some of them said to me, they are so beatable and we'll get them next time. Like they had that confidence that they threw the last game. So to come out there in Whangarei, the Winterless North, for the first time ever, and to beat the Blues was, they'd be pretty proud of that. Give them heaps of confidence moving into these next couple of weeks.
It's a really interesting one, right? Like, you definitely understand why, Blues, I think that it was the right move to get more people to have a run because you never know what's going to happen in this last round. If you ended up having a key player end up picking up an injury, all of a sudden you're throwing in someone that hasn't had any minutes into a final. That's a big ask. So I totally understand giving them the game time yesterday. It's also interesting because is it at all tactical? Because you're basically, if you're doing your review work, this game isn't really going to give Matatu much in terms of how the Blues are probably going to shape up and end up playing in the final. And so if it's like, you just don't give them as much away. Do you know what I mean? Like you're not giving them your full noise. You're still keeping a bit in reserve for the final, which is only in 2 weeks' time. So an interesting tactic there. Matatu, though, like I say, I think this grind out, That was a hallmark of their season back in 2023 when they won the championship. So the fact that they've found that resilience again, that way to absorb and play right to the end of a game, not worried about what the scoreboard is just going to work, it's going to be exciting. It's going to set up a beautiful match for in 2 weeks' time. But of course, the other match we had, Paua and Manawa. Trademark sigh. So,
17. I'm sighing. I'm sighing now.
Oh, 17-0 at halftime. 27-7 at full time. But actually, I don't know if you know, Les, but the Paua were playing last try wins. So actually, we won that game.
I mean, to go naught would have been even more heartbreaking, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's already been tough, and to lose, nil would have been really tough. So I'm glad they got that last try. But yeah, it was a real hard game to enjoy. Probably took what the first half, or the sort of from the 10-minute mark of the Blues Matatu game, which got really clunky, and they kind of carried that into their game, right? It was just so many stop-starts, so many handling errors. And I think we've sort of talked about that throughout this whole podcast is a lot of these teams are finding their feet in what is the early stages of preseason, really. But we're 5 weeks in, and so I was probably expecting a lot more fluidity, a lot more flow from all four teams than what we did see on the weekend. So I was a little bit gutted with that as a fan.
I have to say, and I wonder if this has impacted your viewing experience, because I have to say that first game, Les, because I was watching it live, my experience of the match was very different. Like, I was right edge of my seat. I wasn't necessarily, like I said to you, my notes on players are pretty much useless because I was just watching the blows going back and forth. And it's one of those things, like when I was a kid, I wouldn't be able to stay up to watch the rugby games because I'd end up falling asleep. So we'd record them on the Sky, and my mum would come in the morning, and she was terrible. She'd like, I didn't tell you the score, but she would always be like, oh, have you seen the game? Or, have you seen the game? And even in that told me what had happened, right? And sometimes, when you know what the outcome is, you just can't get into the tension points at different times. Like, we were absolutely gutted. We had to leave at that 20-minute to go mark where it had just become 24 all, and you were like, oh, are the Blues about to do what the Blues always do and just kind of bring this extra gear? Or is Matatu actually going to be able to hold nerve? And we had to go quickly out the car, stack it up on the radio and listen in as we were driving out to Upper Hutt. And it was so exciting. And seeing other people's social media posts around it too, they were like, this is a heck of a Barney. And for the first time, I think what made people excited is you didn't know who was going to win, where it has kind of been Blues all season.
Yeah, 100%. It's definitely good for the fan engagement and for the excitement of these games. And I will admit that yesterday I had a massive whānau day. Our iwi signed our treaty settlement. So my heart was somewhere else yesterday, and I had to watch the game on replay today. But yeah, I mean, the fact that it went right through to the 38th minute, I think that's the point where Lucy Jenkins made that crucial turnover. I think she did that a couple of years ago against the Blues, actually, up in North Harbour. Big play to sort of end that go forward that the Blues were having to try and fight back. But yeah, great game for the entertainment and going right to the 80th minute.
And setting up all the stats going into the final, because now, of course, they're one each. Coming into that final, and as we know, the results yesterday locked in that it will be a Blues Matatu final. The question remains who will get to host, because at the moment, if we look at the points, okay, you have the Blues at the top of the table. They've got 19 points. Matatu is behind them on 18 competition points. Manawa behind them on 7, and Paua. Okay, so we'll move on. The best possible finish that the Blues can hope for. So in this competition, you get 4 points for a win. You can get a bonus point for losing well or winning well, essentially. There's a certain number of tries, da-da-da. If the Blues end up win and get the winning bonus, they will be sitting on 24 points and they will finish first. And it won't be possible for the Matatu to leapfrog them. So 99.9% of the times you will say that it will be a final that will be played at Eden Park, given that they are playing my Hurricanes Paua next week. But Hey, my team could do something shocking, who knows? The Matatu, though, they're currently sitting, like I say, on that 18 points. So if they are able to go through, get the win, get the bonus point, they could be sitting on 23. So if the Blues don't pick up the points they need, they can leapfrog them into first, and then they would get to host that final. So really, Manawa, Paua, they don't get to have any shot at playing the final, but what they do get to have a shot at is who gets to host. So they could leave one of the teams they play with a bit of a black eye on the way to the final, and still have a little bit of influence there.
Yeah, but you know that these two teams will just want to finish strong, right? They'll just want to play to win, because their seasons are, well, especially the Paua, it will be all pride. And I think for the Manawa, it will be a matter of like sisterhood, you know, kind of like, let's just finish this on our terms, do it our way. We know that for the first time ever, we're not going to be in a final, but we also know that it just hasn't been right this year. So let's just sort of do what we can together. I think that'll be their mindset.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really tough one for the Paua to get up for. Just because it's kind of like you feel probably a little bit like lambs to the slaughter, but then at the same time, you got nothing to lose. And when you got nothing to lose, you can play all types. So who knows? That's the games coming up, though. But looking at the games that were played, we've looked to assemble our Inform 15. And we are going to be asking for your advice on some of these decisions this week, because it was tight, team. We were looking across, we were crunching the numbers. It wasn't an easy answer in some of these positions. So one of the answers that was more straightforward, though, was at the starting at loosehead. And I am so stoked for her, actually, that we can confidently say, Awhina Tangenway-Nohu, congratulations. You are our loosehead of the week. I'm stoked for her. This is the first start that she's got. She needed it to be a good game, and she gave us a good game.
She so did. She's had a tough time, you know, with a neck injury, and as a front rower, that's massive and that's scary and that knocks your confidence. But she hasn't looked that way in her return. She's actually been great off the bench for the Blues every week. But to get a start this week, her first time, and to put out the performance she did, like, I thought she was busy, man. She's looking fit. And I think more game time is just going to make that girl grow more and more and more as we head towards World Cup, you know. So peaking at the right end of the Aupiki season, but probably only just starting to scratch her surface in terms of where her year can go. I'm so stoked she had a good game.
Now, one thing I will just also say, plug for my other work. I did actually do an interview with Awhina a while back, profiling that journey. But what I thought was interesting out of that, which I'm not sure if I necessarily dropped in, was that during her injury time, when she wasn't able to be played, she got plugged right in the Waikato, doing a lot of mentoring on front row. Who was one of her mentees? Oh, only Visinia, for goodness sake. So some of the ways that Via's playing at the moment, you got to say, shout out to Awhina, she's been helping to breed her competition as well. Like a great player, team player, and every emphasis of that, really motivated by her own experiences. Like we say, that neck trouble that she had probably came from not getting the right coaching at the right time that she needed. She's desperate to make sure that that's not young props experience, and so that's why she made sure to plug in and help that happen. And again, shout out to the Waikato Rugby Union, who run some fantastic work in the front row, and I'm going to go on about it because I swear to goodness, we do not support our front row enough. You know the story. If you come along to a club training, you've never played rugby before, if you're a beautiful full-bodied woman, they say, okay, cool, front row. And as Awhina said, they usually tell you, put your head in and stay in the fight. And that doesn't give you a heck of a lot in terms of the technique that is needed. And so that peer-to-peer learning becomes so vital. But what Waikato did is they ran a series of front row workshops and had them around the region. And the proof is in the pudding. We made the comment last week, I'm pretty sure, that the Waikato is a front row factory. So that's the challenge to the rest of these PUs out there. Get onto it. Get shoulder tapping your players, your experienced players, get them to mentor and grow up the next generation, and you too can be claiming all the reward. Anyway, hookers. Atlanta Lolo here didn't start this week, so we have a different hooking option. Who did we go with, Les?
Well, we went with Georgia Ponsonby in the end, and we did a bit of a cross-check against Vicky Rose Green as well. But yeah, I think Atlanta Lolohere could have, played a third party in this if she'd played a full game maybe, because her form has been outstanding. But we did land on Georgia Ponsonby, who came in with 12 carries, one defender beaten. She got 33 metres gained. So in all those three stats, she has outmatched Vicky Rose Green. She made 11 tackles, missed 2, but in comparison to Vicky Rose's 5, which I thought was quite interesting because Matatu did play with majority territory and possession in that first half. But obviously when it did transition to defence, Georgia Ponsonby got stuck into it. She was our performing hooker for this week.
Wonderful. Congratulations, Georgia. First time featuring in the Inform 15, which is a surprise to me. But anyway, when it comes to number 3, look, it is again Vasenia Mahutariki Whakalilo, but we did also want to talk about a couple of the props in the Blues. Eldora Aitinu obviously had a pretty big game for them there. The try that she scored, an important one. But I also wanted to make sure to give a shout out to Haronote Erenga because she, came on as the substitute but made a big impact to that game. I've said to you before, Les, she is a player that I would pick in my underrated New Zealand 15. Vic Edmonds would be the captain, but Harono would be in there. And it was because of particularly the 2 turnovers that she won, crucial times that she picked them up. She's just someone that will go to war next year, You know
what? I actually got a surprise that she was playing because I thought she was in the injury list. We did a preview of that game and had her as...
Did we?
I'm sure we did.
Maybe it was a late change. Oh, you're right. We had her as a shoulder because I had been told shoulder, so she must have been a late change. They did say it during the announcement and I missed it, so it must have been a late switch out.
She would have been like, I don't care about my shoulder, I'm coming home. Like, that's home for her, right? Up north. Yeah. And she is Te Tai Tokiro hard, so she probably just said, nah, shoulder's all good. That high five she gave last week to the ref had healed. So, but I agreed. I thought she was great off the bench. I thought she really brought some impact.
Now, at locking pairs, we had again, it was looking at that Matatu Blues game. That's where the 2 players to contrast. And look, Emma Dermody had a great game again, given that she was a player that we haven't seen start this season, came in as injury cover for Laura Bayfield. She was pretty busy both sides of the ball, 11 tackles, missing 1, 6 carries for 14 metres gain, managed to beat a defender there too, 1 a turnover, all fantastic stuff. Meanwhile, though, Maya Roos, she's just one of those players that is so busy you just don't even notice. A similar thing, 21 tackles, missed 2, 7 carries, managed to make 22 metres off those carries, and 1 a turnover there too. So it's apples for apples, but then just slightly ahead, right? Like they're doing all the same things. The work rate from Roos, though, just giving her the edge. So she gets to be the starting 4 again. Congratulations. In her 20th match, playing every minute, for goodness sake. Number 5, an interesting one, though. We had a couple of players to contrast against. What did you reckon, Les?
Yeah, so we compared Vaipulu. We also looked at China Hohepa because there were a couple of things that she really did that stood out in crucial moments. I think her distribution to Ruby Tui in the opening try again in that game was outstanding. Actually, her and Jade Coates did really well to get that ball to the edge. But we also looked at Chelsea Bremner too. So across the 3, lineouts 1, Vaipulu 2, Hohepa 3, Hohepa and Chelsea 3. Tackles, again, that's sort of determined by how the game is played, and for majority of the Manawa game they played attacking rugby, so they weren't often on defence. So we actually had Chelsea Bremner with the most tackles at 16 compared to Vaipulu's 15. Chelsea did miss 2. And then carries, well, Chelsea was very busy with 16 carries and 20 metres gained compared to Vaipulu's 14 carries and 15 metres gained. Hohepa not as busy in the carry area, which is surprising considering, like I just said, they did play a lot of attacking rugby. But she did make beat a couple of defenders, 2 there, and Vaipulu 3. I think overall, though, where we landed was Chelsea Bremner, and this was, tough because Chelsea and Vaipulu have been, well, Vaipulu in particular has been outstanding, and this will be the first week that she doesn't feature in our top 15. She's had an outstanding game, and she's still played pretty well, but probably not to the level that we're now expecting of her because she plays so well. So congratulations, Chelsea Bremner, you played well yesterday.
So she's a victim of her own success, Mama is, because we now come to expect her to just have outrageous numbers every week. Same with number 6, though. We had an open casting call, and we put it out to all of the 6s that were the starts from yesterday. And again, kind of thereabouts. I do want to give a special mention, though, to Oli Olimua, because one of the things that impressed me the most about her was actually some stuff that happened online rather than necessarily on the field, which is, look, we all saw that last time the Paua and Manawa played each other, and unfortunately for her, she was the face that received the full fend. Actually, it might have been her throat from Kennedy Tukuafu, which has now become kind of a centerpiece in Chief Manawa promotions. Of course, you're bringing that full kaha to everything you're doing, but that can be the type of thing that if you are the player left on the other side of it, always feels a bit rough. But I just want to give her some love because I think she handled it beautifully. The week when it happened, she did a photo dump on Instagram, and the last photo was her. Just a close-up on her face. So, she's in on the joke. And when they dropped, it did cause ripples, I have to say, amongst Paua fans when the Chiefs Manawa used that hero shot coming down to our country. We're all like, oh, come on now. And Oli was up to it because that first couple of minutes, she almost scored on the outside there. Breakaway, fantastic stuff. So absorbing the banter, bringing itself, not taking yourself too seriously, all really good stuff because, look, sometimes you are the person that ends up getting smashed them on Smashed and Bro. The only time in my life I was recognised as a rugby player in real life was when I was walking out of the stadium the week after I was number 1 on Smashed and Bro getting smashed by Linda Aitanu.
Oh my God! Who hasn't been smashed by her? You know what? I've got a very quick story that I always tell to any young girls that have said who has the hardest hitter that has hit me, and for me it's Linda Aitanu. Yeah. My first year in the Black Ferns debut season. And I was in the sort of reserve group that trained against the starting team. So I was off the bench. So we trained against the starting team. And every ruck, you're trying to impress as a new player in the team. You're trying to earn the respect and get in that top 15. And I remember just hammering all the rucks. I'd just attack every ruck. And I was turning over ball at trainings. And I heard Linda Aitanu say to the starting 15, I heard her say, "Stop letting Les steal our ball. Hit her so hard, she doesn't come back." And so just young and dumb and didn't even think, well, I wasn't even that young, I was quite old. But didn't even think, oh, maybe that next ruck, I'll just stay out because they're gonna smash me. But I thought, I'm going to hit that same ruck. First ruck, post hearing her say that, and I just it was like a knife in my ribs. And I just remember getting hit so hard, she winded me. I was out for 3 days after that with bruised ribs from her hit. Yeah. Lucky I made game day, or she would have taken my debut off me.
She was just unreal, wasn't she? Honestly, there's those certain players that will just echo through ages, and her shoulders were so hard if they hit you, you'll feel it for the rest of your life. I've got 100%. Pretty sure this is her. Thanks for that. Anyway, so I said all of that, but ultimately, actually, our 6 for this week was Holly Greenway, because look, and great that she got to be on the field with Taufa Basin, because obviously she almost got the inclusion last week, and then that kind of breakaway star, but fantastic stuff from her. 22 tackles, not a single one missed. You love to see that from a 7. She did 8 carries, got 21 metres off that. All round, just gave you what you needed. So congratulations to her for her featuring for us there. 7 though, this is where, team, listen up. We're putting this out to you because we had a conversation before we started this record today, and we couldn't land on who we thought should win it. All of the numbers are kind of all over the place. If we look at who won the most turnovers yesterday, that was Eleanor Plumking with 2. Lucy Jenkins had 1. Kennedy Tukuafu had 1. Taufa Basin didn't pick one up. If we look at tackles, King made 20 and missed 4. Lucy Jenkins made 22 and missed 3. Basin missed 4 and made 17. And Kennedy, she made 11 and missed 2. So we're all kind of the same in terms of tackle percentage. I mean, Jenkins a little bit busier on the number that she's made there. Carries, Eleanor Plum, she made 6. I mean, look, that's probably quite a lot considering how little the Hurricanes Poa were attacking. Lucy Jenkins, she made 5. Taufa Basin, she loves to carry, so she made 10 of them. But Kennedy Tukuafu, 18. Really busy from her. In terms of how effective they were on those carries, Kennedy, she beat 7 defenders. She's the top of that. Basin, she beat 5, but she also got a clean break. God, she's exciting to watch on the attack. Lucy Jenkins, she also got a clean break, and Eleanor Plumkin continues to be an attacking threat as well. 2 defenders 2 defenders beaten and 1 clean break. The numbers, what do we reckon, Les? Like pretty close as well.
Yeah, really close. I mean, initially when I watched the game, I was like, Basin. And I think it was because even she got 2 tries and so did Lucy Jenkins, but the difference was Jenkins was definitely a catch and land, 2 catch and land type tries compared to Basin's bit more work to do on her own to get those tries done. I think over the line, she was well into the try line, and she just threw in I'll bowl over Maya Joseph while I'm at it type thing. So I thought Basin, but then it was the crucial turnover by Lucy Jenkins at the 78th minute, which I thought was a big play for her because it really stopped any chance that the Blues had of a clawback. But then I watched the next game and I was like, oh gosh, Kennedy she's on again, And at that point I had no stats, and then I seen the stats and I'm like, yeah, how I felt about Kennedy playing is backed up by these stats. Didn't score any tries. But man, she made one hell of a line break. I remember, I think she threw off Leila Sayer, which you don't see often.
No.
Yeah, she was great. So I've sort of, even just having this conversation, I'm swayed again. I'm kind of like Kennedy,
Yeah.
I'm kind of Kennedy. But is that because my manawa heart is hurting?
I also I want to say too, and I know we had that conversation before, but Basin, this is only her first ever start. This is only her second Opiki game. This is her first start. She does this. The confidence this kid is playing with. That salmon dive she did over the top of the ruck, that is ballsy stuff. You've really got to back yourself and your skill set. You're having a little cheeky dart, which when you're the young gun in the team sheet, you might be inclined to play a little bit more conservative. Not her. She's having a lot of fun out there.
She is. I love that big smile too. She's having so much fun. So you're on the Basin fence. I'm on the Tukuafu fence. I think there's still a fight out there for Jenkins.
Yeah.
So maybe we ask the listeners,
and
right?
I have to also, of course, put my pump in for Eleanor Plumking as well. Like I say, the fact that she managed to have 2 defenders beaten and 1 clean break of 6 carries, ended up getting the 32 metres. That was more carry metres gained than Lucy Jenkins. She did not get a lot of ball when she did stuff with it. 2 turnovers, 1. She's becoming a master of the turnovers. She's getting that consistently every week. And again, core roles for flankers. So yes, we don't know. You vote. We're going to put this up. If we're going to delay the Inform 15 and let you decide who should be the starting 7 this week, because we're not putting our reputation on the line on this. We can't.
Yeah, the only thing I would add, because we have sort of asked for people's opinions on it in the past, try and take away your favoritism, try and take away your bias, try and take away the jersey that you support, and actually vote based on performance in some of these numbers. We want to hear some real analytical detail around who deserves that top 7.
Yes, you know what? You can't just say a name. You've got to say a name and a reason. We'll put the question box up on the story so you can make your testimony as to why. Similar on the post, if you're going to make a comment, you can't just say Jenkins, you have to say why. So give us the who and the why, and then we'll decide who ends up getting that starting jersey. Wonderful. Number 8, again, a lot of great performances. More straightforward, though, because there was one that was just so clean with it. 18 tackles, no missed ones, 9 defenders beaten, 1 clean break, 67 metres gained. I'm talking about Kaipo Olsen-Baker, a heck of a match for her.
And that's with 10 minutes off the field getting an HIA check. So,
yeah,
she did all that damage in 70 minutes. Deserving, I think.
Unreal stuff. Halfback? What did you reckon on this one?
Yeah, I leaned more towards Maya Joseph. I thought the 2 tries that Jenkins did score were because of quick thinking and flatline distribution from Maya Joseph. Great. Like those flatline balls with someone running on a hard down line, they're so effective. So I thought that was ballsy of her. We know that she is more of a kicking 9, and I think we've talked about seeing a bit more variety in her kicking game. But I also thought this time round her kicks were really good. Like she chose good options to kick, to turn the Blues around, to keep them in their own 22, which I thought was an effective game plan. It seemed like they were really trying to keep the Blues down that end of the field, so they had to really work hard to get to the try line. So, yeah, I went with Maya Joseph for those reasons.
Yeah, she's growing on me, because I'm going to say it like I said to you before, Les. My feeling about box kicks is like many people's feelings about scrums. They don't understand why they're happening. They would rather they weren't a part of the game. Okay, I always feel like they're too slow and they're signposting what's going to happen. But her, like you say, her execution on them yesterday was fantastic. We are starting to see her not just default to the kick. She is adding more, as her confidence is growing, she's adding more versatility to her options there. The 4 tries assists, you talk about 2 lines that she had 4 try assists yesterday. That was the highest amongst, I think, everyone. So, fantastic stuff from her there. So, yeah, congratulations, Maya. Fantastic to see. When we came to number 10s, it was also quite an interesting matchup. Was there anyone that you were picking head and shoulders above, Les?
I think, I don't think it was Ruahei's best game.
No.
At 10. And that could be with the changes that have happened in their team. That always tends to sort of make things flow not as smoothly as they usually would. And they have been building great consistency. I thought King did really well. I've been paying heaps of attention to the Matatu pods, and I kind of only just realised that King actually sometimes pops into the pod, and she's the 3rd person in the pod. So it's almost like she's there waiting to loop around to cut off sitting behind a pod, which I just thought was interesting. I was like, how have I not seen this up until now? But I thought she had a good game. I actually thought Chubik played well, considering she hasn't featured for the last couple of weeks, and she jumped in and distributed really well. She's obviously a lot more of a passing first 5, a distributing first 5 than she is a running first 5, and we see that with her, I think, making 78 passes compared to the next highest, which was Hannah King at 30. So she does a lot more distribution than she does any running. But overall, I kind of landed on King. She was my 10 for the day. She had 30 passes, which was, I think, the second highest of the 4. Made 12 tackles, only missed 1 in comparison to the next highest, which was Gappa, who made 10 tackles, missed 4. King again, 3 carries of that 29 metres gained. I think Ruahei was the only one better than her with 10 carries and 34 metres gained. So, 7 more carries than King, but only 5 more metres. So just effectiveness there probably sits with King. No defenders beaten in comparison to Gappa, who had 2 defenders beaten. That was the highest out of the 10s. And she had 1 turnover conceded, but also one turnover. So, yeah, I thought King.
I think you also had to, right? Given that it was the composure that held that team together to win that game, and a lot of that comes from who's steering the ship. And so, yeah, Hannah King, she continues to have such a steadiness about her as a young player, which is really exciting to see. It was actually in the other game, though, finally, a bright point of the Manawa-Paua game was on the left wing, because there it was that we had Aisha Letiinga and Merirangi Paul, who were both fantastic for their teams. You would say Merirangi, of course, had a lot more opportunities to attack just because of how that game went. So she ended up with 10 carries. She had 4 defenders beaten and a clean break. She got 71 metres gained. By contrast, Aisha only got the ball 4 times to have a run, but she still managed to beat 2 defenders and gain 14 metres there. But the big thing you have to say is Aisha has been every week a standout in a team that is not doing well. And for a winger to do that, if you are not as familiar with rugby, you really need to understand how impressive that is, because generally, if you're a team that's, not doing well, they're just kind of out in no man's land. They're not going to get a lot. They're just going to get a lot of people, running at them. But she really does go looking for work, is trying to find it. But her stuff on defence, the moment where we had the yellow card and the scrum happened just after it, and I was like, oh God, here we go. We're now going to have an overlap. And her timing to absolutely annihilate Tanika Willison out the back there. Thankfully, Neeks is good, did pass her HIA, we can tell you that. But the timing on that, unreal, and such an important tackle to lift a team. And so for that reason, it's the defensive work that carries Aish for me.
Yeah, the only thing I'm going to say to that is it probably would have been a 30 point hiding, really.
Yeah.
She saved about 3 tries. It wasn't just that one that she shut down. She made a sort of knee tackle. She was on her knees on Ruby Tui in the corner, which I thought Manawa should have scored. And the one where there was a bit of soccer being played, I think a kick was pushed through and Aish regathered it in the dead ball line and grounded it. That was another try, which she saved. So, yeah, her defensive game, outstanding.
I can't wait to see her play in the Black Ferns to really get to show people the form she's in. I just don't think we've got to see her running full hiss this season. Now, 12s this week, we're going to be honest, we're all a bit quiet. And maybe that was because there was there was maybe a bit more change up, or just the ways that the game went. It just didn't necessarily have the big Brooker impact that I'd seen in other games. Maliapo was maybe pushing things a bit much. Obviously, there was the loop pass that got intercepted there. She's potentially guilty of overplaying her hand a bit because she hasn't got much game in there, really hungry to show people what she can do. Nolan, she was solid on her numbers, but she doesn't necessarily spark anything up, which is what you want to see outside, particularly given that Tubik is just a really big distributor. And then you've got kind of Nolan doing the same thing. You're not adding angles there to kind of give an extra dimension. So believe it or not, and I've checked with Les, we're allowed to do this because we gave this to Chris Valeko when she also, I believe, got a card that week. I ended up giving it to my old teammate, Monica Tangawai, who, yes, she did get a yellow card, but it was for repeat infringements in the 22. So a team card. She was just the last one. Hot potato. But fantastic, a big game from her on an otherwise tough game for Wellington.
Yeah, and for someone who's sort of been in and out of the starting lineup, coming off the bench, that sort of thing. Really hard again to get that kind of consistency in your performances. But I thought of all the 12, she had the most punch, and you need to see that from your 12s through the midfield. I think you made a great point of mentioning Hazel Tribbick is a big distributing 10. So then you would think that your 12 would be a big running 12. I think there's a really good point to bring up, and we're probably just not seeing that from Kiriana Nolan. She's kind of just...
She's a 10 though, isn't she? So you've just got two 10s.
I thought so.
Yeah. So that's the thing. She's playing 12 like a 10. And so then you're not, like I say, in terms of the angles, you've got to have 2 people that are going to bounce out rather than cutting back. And when you compare again to if Sylvia Brunt is playing 12, she's got that really hard. Yeah, it's just a different style.
Yeah. So yeah. Monica this week.
An easier one for 13, Amy Duplessis, fantastic game from her. It was just a fantastic game from her.
Yeah. And maybe she was pissed off with us because we didn't have her in there last week, because she has been a regular. She has been a regular in that jersey number 13. And I actually had a couple of messages saying that we got that wrong last week and she should have still been the 13.
Yeah.
And they weren't from Matatu fans. They weren't just biased fan comments. These were actually, I think she was the better 13. So I love that kind of discussion. But I thought it was very clear yesterday, that Amy Duplessis was the standout 13. She's playing some great rugby, man.
She is. And I think the thing, I could roll through all her stats, but honestly, the one that stood out for me was actually not one of hers, but it was who was opposite her. So now both times that Matatu have played the Blues, she's had to mark up on Portia Woodman-Whitcliffe. The first game that they played, Portia managed to get 70 metres gain in that match, but yesterday she contained it at just 46. Portia is averaging more than 75 metres a game, right? Like the only game that was less than that was, I think, when Merirangi might have been marking her in one of the matches. So that, like, in terms of Amy, what she would have wanted to do in terms of that assignment, she brought all the things she needed for her team, but she also did the big containment job, which was trying to keep that lid on what Portia could do. Right wing, oh my gosh. So we had looked at Vahakolo, obviously back in action after her time out with the concussion, and Ruby Tui. Ruby Tui did everything that she needed to do for her side. It was annoying. Stopped scoring tries against us. Again, she annoyed me because she was playing the Paua. But Vahakolo, and again, the one stat, if we were running through all of them, the one thing I want to point out is that she didn't really beat defenders in that match. She had to run into contact and keep pumping legs. If you look at it, she had 10 carries, 0 defenders beaten. She did have a clean break, but she still managed to get 79 metres gained. This woman's post-contact metres are so impressive. It's something that you see her replicate when she plays for New Zealand, but she brings it here too. And so that whole thing of not just having the razzle-dazzle, the footwork, but being able to do the grind work too is so impressive from an outside back.
How cool is that, right? That she's gonna, in most cases, beat defenders, but if she can't beat them, she's gonna run through them. So she's got that variety as a winger. I just love watching her play. She gives me, is it Venderi? Joelle Venderi? Like that sort of swerve. Some of these listeners won't even know who that is, like showing my age right now. But she just swerves and glides. She's so impressive to watch. And I've seen the fan engagement as well. I know this has got nothing to do with the on-field rugby, but I just love what she's doing to really grow our game.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we started with a player who we were happy that she played a big game because she needed to, and we're going to finish with one too. The fullback of the week this week is Renee Holmes. It has been controversial that she has not been included in squad lineups. I'm just going to say it, I think it's bonkers. Given the quality of player that you had. When Neeks went down yesterday, I was like, this is bullshit. Now they just get to bring Renee Holmes on? Like, what is that for a substitute? And Renee came on and had an absolute field day. Her on attack, a massive game from her. 2 defenders beating a clean break, 76 metres ran, a try she picked up. A big game. A game to show people, don't you forget who I am, And I don't think people can now.
And how good is that in terms of that resilience, right? Like, it's hard when you are performing and you are like one of the world's best to maybe dropping in performance and trying to find that again, but then also not being played to be able to find that makes it really hard. And then to come off the bench and make the impact that she did, that shows a lot about a person's character. And I think that's really awesome to see. Like, we need Renee playing her best rugby for what's to come later in the year. And, if it's to come on and make an impact like that and get the confidence from that and know that, I'm still good and I'm still capable of being the best 15 in this country, then that's what we need. And that's what Aupiki is there to, that's the purpose it serves, right, is to get these girls ready for the Blackburns as well. So, I'm stoked for Renee. Renee and Afi rounding us out with great performances at 1 and 15.
Fantastic. Now, we do know that for the last couple of weeks, we've been going a bit heavy on all of you because you know what? There's been some big... We finally got a microphone and we really just needed to tell you everything that we thought was going on and what we thought should happen. But we also wanted to make sure this week, by contrast, to also just put a bit of a spotlight on some of the good things that we have seen this season. We're coming now into the last round of the game, which... by all intents and purposes, is essentially working as what would have been the semi-finals. It would have been the Blues playing the Poa, and it would have been Matatu playing Manawa. So we get to kind of have a version. We can just pretend that this week is semi-final. But the way and the energy, I have to say, there's been a few things that I've seen. What the top of my mind that I think have been done fantastically. I think both the regional games, the one played in Nelson and the one played in Whangarei, they were great. I think not only did the franchise, take it and put the love, but they really put the love in. I have seen the Poa take games to regions. We've played in Levin, we've played in Palmerston North, but it hasn't necessarily had that on-ground activation attached. So really seeing the whole production that they put around in Nelson and in Whangarei, you felt that in the crowd and you could hear it when you were watching it. People were really engaged and really excited to be there watching Super Rugby Aupiki for the first time.
Yeah, 100%. A part of me can't help but think, I wish they'd do that for Manawa. Like, take it. We just have all our games at FMG, and I get it. There's a lot of logistics that goes into broadcasting live matches, and whether or not facilities outside of those big regions or outside of those big stadiums have what is needed to broadcast live games. But yeah, so cool. I was at the Nelson game, and that was epic. That was still the best vibe that I've seen at Aupiki game this year, but taking it up to Whangarei, we know how supportive they were during the Rugby World Cup in 2022. So yeah, I think that's been a real celebration for the sport.
There's the challenge to the Poa and the Manawa for next season. Play one of the games in Taranaki. Yeah, it's technically Manawa region, but if you play both those two together in Yarrow Stadium, then all of a sudden that's going to be it. You can broadcast games there. We see you do it with the NPC. Likewise, Poa, I'd love you to get to the Hawke's Bay. I think we have such a beautiful core of our players now that have come out of that region. We know you can play there. Surely the Bay, for you, Les, we need to get a game over there.
Do you know, Tauranga Domain is the best place to play. Like, it is so cool. It's similar to that Nelson vibe. It feels like the fans can just touch you. They're that close to you, and it packs out. And we all know that the Bay has the best weather in the country, so you're going to get a good one. But yeah, take it to the Bay.
Yeah, there we go. We've liked it. We want to see more. Another thing that I have to say I have liked seeing is there has been a little bit more crossover that I've seen between the men's and the women's teams. That has been, look, when we launched this thing, only one franchise got to be new and just for us, and that was Matatu. The amalgam of the Crusaders and Highlanders together to make that team. Everyone else had to put the men's name on half of their name, or in the Blues case, just copy and paste. But we have Chiefs, Manawa, Hurricanes, Poa, Blues, but we haven't necessarily seen Blues men with Blues women. We haven't necessarily seen Chiefs men with Chiefs Manawa. We haven't necessarily seen Hurricanes with Hurricanes Poa. So it's been nicer to see more of an overlap this season. And I think that is something that rugby men, wake up. You see how much everyone's loving, what's his name? The beautiful man from South Africa, the captain. The way that, yes, how all of the love he has got back from getting in behind his women's teams and just women's rugby in general. It's so easy, guys. Use a little bit of your platform to share it with us, and you're going to get so much back.
100%. I think, the biggest advocate... I don't want to take away, there have been some amazing advocates in the men's game for the women's game, and a lot of them had a lot to do with, Richie McCaw and Conrad Smith, and that had a lot to do with the women going professional back in 2012. But... yeah, when you see Duplessis Karifi and I think it was Ruben Love at a Poa game, that really just changes perception out there. And the perception from a lot of males is that we still are just the little cousin, and that's fine. We're not sitting here moaning about that. Well, we might be a little bit, but that having the men advocate for us is actually massive. It's very empowering, and it just changes perceptions. It actually has a way bigger impact than I think the men even realise.
My friend Steph Evans put this beautifully for me years ago, where she was saying, we all have like our ponds, right, where we can throw stones and we can have ripples of impact. The reality is, no matter how hard you and I throw sometimes, Les, we're not going to be able to hit the ponds that some of these men can. They've got access to whole other areas, whole other groups of people that we're not going to be able to reach. And so that's that whole thing of use your influence, use it while you have it. Do something with it. What's the point of a platform unless you're sharing the love, Speaking of platforms, though, have to also say big love to like literally every one of the content managers for each of these franchises. The uptick in the social media production for each of these teams this year, completely different. I remember season 1, and the Blues, I know, are still mad at me because I didn't mark them. And believe me, Blues, you didn't want me to. Because in season 1, it was abysmal. You would have to scroll through like 20 men's posts to maybe get one stilted graphic, and then you would see another beautiful reel with all the action shots, and then it would be another kind of cutout paste over here, and actually you can tell that she wasn't wearing that jersey, and maybe you actually got it printed last minute because it looks like a bib on top, you know what I mean? Like not integrated properly. So all of that, it was tacky as in year 1. If you compared that to this year, it's night and day. Like, I wish the media was picking up and presenting our tournament with the same love that I'm seeing the content producers give it.
Yeah, to be honest, like I feel like the old me was definitely, we just need to have one social media page where the men's and women's are all on one. And then I was like, oh man, I don't actually want to see all of this. I just want to find the women's stuff. And you had to find that one post among the 20. Whereas now, I think, other than the Blues, everyone else has an independent content media page, which is just for the women. And I actually love it. I love just being able to go on there and find everything that I need to see for just the women. Because that's the team that I'm like so passionate about seeing. I would argue that the Blues are doing so well, though, on the platform that they currently have, and they do give a lot of time to their women's team. So I still think they're doing a great job of their one page. But for the other groups, having those independent pages are so cool. And I think to add to that as well, accepting the fact that we just have different fan bases. Like some of the men's fanatics who love the men's game, who love rugby, are just not our fans. And that's okay. Like, I think we just need to be happy with the fact that we aren't going to bring across to the women's game everyone from the men's game. And that's actually our point of difference. Because if you look at the World Cup in 2022, that wasn't your typical rugby fan base. That was the most exciting group of people, most diverse group of people, I don't know, like the nicest group of people. Like I was in there being hugged by them. I felt their vibes in comparison to some of the stuff that we do deal with when you have a lot of the male fans come across.
Look, it annoys them. Can we just be honest? Like if you're a person of a certain demographic, you feel like everything's being shoved down your throat, and you feel the same thing about women's rugby. Just be honest. So if we put it there, you're basically baiting them to say something negative. And that's not good for anyone. That's not good for the fans that see it. It's not good for the players that see it. It's not good for your franchise in terms of the sponsors who see it. People who should be all about you throwing hate at people in the comments. So keep it separate. Hold space for it. But the other part too, when you're saying we have different audiences, so communicate with us differently. I saw a beautiful framing of this actually, because it was a debate that had popped off on one of the Red Roses the English players over in the UK, where a couple of players were at camp and they were doing their training and they stopped, and on their social media they had stopped and they did a fit check. And so they were like, this is the jersey, these are the things, this thing. People went off, men's rugby fans went off underneath it and said, you never see this, with our English men, focus on the job, da 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 da. And there was a really good commentator out of the UK. He said, you wouldn't, and that's the point. Yeah. You wouldn't see a fit check, and that's the point. When it comes to the women's game, that's the potential right there. If you're a sports clothing brand, don't you want to pick up and sponsor athletes who will talk about your clothes? There is much more turnover, and this bears out in the stats that they've put together in terms of sponsorship, the payback in terms of putting the money into the women's game. It's because we are more obsessed with everything off the field as well as on it. Like, we don't know enough. Like, if you're just talking knowledge base, a lot of people haven't watched rugby before. You have a more of a new audience. I'm conscious of this every time. Every time I'm talking about women's rugby, I'm talking part history, part education, part action, right? You have to hold that space, but it's also knowing that, yeah, you don't know, so you are going to be excited, and we are just going to be interested in different stuff. You might be interested in what schoolboy college they went to. That doesn't mean anything in women's rugby, but it does. I do want to see their little fashion walk-ups because that's fun.
No, you're so right. And I guess, like, I've mentioned before that I coach a men's team here because that's all I have in the small town that we live in. And I wouldn't coach them exactly the same as what I do with the women's team, which is where I've usually coached, is in women's teams. I wouldn't probably try and drive some of the things that we drive in the women's environment because I know it's different. And I remember actually ringing my brother one time and I was like, hey, do men like playing games before training? And he was like, oh, none of that like singing and dancing stuff that you guys do, eh? And I was like, no. And I explained the game and he was like, yeah, just don't make them sing and dance because you will not win that battle. But I'm not going to try and mold them into how a woman, like what makes women happy, right? But singing and dancing, the woman loves. So we will definitely do that. It's the same with the fans. We're not trying to just copy and paste the fans from the men's game and bring them over to the women's game because it's what makes us unique is how we do things. And the people that love that are our type of fans. So I'm going, look at me, I'm scrolling in my thing because I know I just sent this stat to someone the other day and it's my favourite one from the last World Cup, which is that when it came to those who attended the last World Cup, there was a crazy number of people who actually had never watched rugby before. When it came to that final, I believe, now where is the number? Stalling for time. Oh, Who was the name of the person that asked me this question? This one. That 70%, that's right, I knew it was impressive. 70% of those that attended the Rugby World Cup final in 2022 had never attended a rugby game before. 70%. And that's here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, where we call rugby our national game. And if 70% of 45,000, that's not an insignificant number, who had never touched, had never been interested. I got that from everyone I knew who was like, I thought I hated rugby. Turns out I hate men's rugby and like the energy and attached to it. And I feel this, there's another whole rant and we won't get into it now about why I don't like double headers. And a big part of that for me is around members of my community don't always feel safe there. And by that, I mean queer people. My little brother, who is not a sporty guy, he also wouldn't feel safe in a men's rugby crowd. I don't necessarily feel safe in a men's rugby crowd if I'm there with my partner, who's also a woman. Like, we're just putting ourselves up to get kind of harassment from people, and it's like, leave it out. I'm just here for the sport. So because of that, I will confidently bring people along to a women's game and know they'll be safe. I cannot offer that same assurance at men's games. Wow. Wow, that's massive, right? Like, that's more real than you could hear from anything else. So, again, like, this is meant to be our light section.
But it is, because the light is the women's game. It offers a relationship reset. It offers a place for people that might have otherwise felt like rugby wasn't for them. It is for them. And that actually you can have something different and you don't have to do the really stern stuff and you can have fun with it, and that's part of our appeal. So leaning into that and starting to see the shoots of that in some of the ways that these franchises, the ones that are moving the slickest, starting to see how they're really understanding that. And for me, the two teams that are at the top of the table are the two teams for me that I think have shown this the best this season around really understanding the unique sales proposition. If we're talking marketing, the USP of their two teams. The more we get into that, the more we're better off we'll all be.
There we go.
All right. That's enough from us. Goodness sake. Okay. We need you, though, Reminder again, you have to pick the 7. And you're not just telling us the name of the person you like, you're telling us why. We do. That's what we do with this podcast every week. We spend too long telling you why of all of them. So you have to do the same for us.
You know what? I'm just going to look back a little bit and just say too, that one thing I am really excited about as I wear this jersey is the NRLW, the Warriors women's team that's coming. I am actually excited about that. And the number of rugby players that we're going to see in that. Now, I'm not a league girl. I am rugby through and through. Played league at a couple of Power Wars games, but don't understand the game. And I'm actually really excited. I get excited by the Warriors fan base because I feel like they're different. They're very different to our rugby fan base. They're so passionate. They've got that tribalism. They've got chants, you know. It's all that similar type of people that I think actually love women's rugby. And then additionally, I'm so excited that they've got a women's team coming. So, yeah, I just had to say that.
And I think the positive, again, if we're talking core and halo, the core of it is going to be a big impact for rugby league. The halo impact is going to be big impact for oval ball women's sports markets. Because ultimately, as much as we all end up in competition with each other a lot of the time, we have players that go between bloody standout player of the year the other year, Meli Hufanga, who we should have held on to in 15s. You know, like, so we have a lot of crossover again with player base, same as our conversation about 7s and 15s last week. And so if this is another opportunity for more of our amazing talent to show how amazing they are, that's great. Les, there is a whole longer chapter I could explain to you about why rugby league is like that, because it has its roots in unions. It has a crossover relationship with the Kingitanga movement. There is so much politics in league which are fascinating, but that's a whole other conversation for another day.
It so is, and we've already crossed, I think we're around that 45-hour mark.
Yeah, we're done. But if you want to ask me about politics and league, feel free. I will love to have that conversation with you. But for now, tell us who you're picking at 7, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Ka kite, everybody.